Beat him in an ugly one, 18-12. Falcons continued their struggles in the red zone, only scoring one touchdown on the ground and failing to convert the final play to Julio Jones. Or in other words, right where they left off in 2017. Matt Ryan discussed his team's offensive woes last night.
So when you get your chances against a good defense like that, you've got to capitalize on your opportunities. So disappointed. I thought we battled. We fought like crazy. We knew it was going to be a tough game coming in here. It was going to be in a 60-minute game. It was that way. But it's disappointing to not leave here with a win.
Well, I'd say the psychological challenge is we got a very resilient group, all right, a really tough group of guys. So we put a good bit of work in, and we'll continue to do that. I would expect this group, like I said in there, we'll get our ass off the mat and go back to work. We've got work to do. We'll go back in and clean those up tomorrow. But by no means is our psyche adjusted from one game.
You know what, Bart? Dan Quinn talks about the work they have to do. I thought the assumption was that they've been doing that red zone work all, off season long after the way they played last year in the red zone. How worried should Matt Ryan and the Falcons be about their offense after what you saw?
Well, that was their Achilles heel, and you can't trade and get to the red zone, do all the work, and then not finish the job. And I think you have to get more creative. I saw on some of those replays that they had the zero slant at the top, but Matt Ryan was looking to the bottom at all the time. You got to be creative. And I think about some of the best red zone offense that I've seen in recent history, and they all include Aaron Rodgers. And what he does is he does quick screens in the red zone. Traditionally, even before Aaron Rodgers got there, even with Brett Favre, they were tremendously great screen team, draw team, because defense is going to be aggressive, so their eyes aren't always right. I would like to see them be a little bit more creative and trying ways to get the ball to Julio. And when everybody knows that Julio's a great fade receiver, you have to develop the back shoulder fade. I didn't see them attempt one back shoulder fade. Aaron Rodgers, again, remember, the year they won the Super Bowl, back shoulder fade, you can't defend it because you can't be right. And I just think that they need to hone in on that and get more creative. And I blame it on the coordinator.
Listen, Sark was terrible at this last year. And they said all off season's what they're focused on. It wasn't just because their season ended from a 1st and goal from the 9, but it was the reason they were playing in the reason they were a wild card team last year was because of lack of red zone execution. The reason they didn't get home playoff game, it was their entire. They were the same personnel as the team that set all the records in 2016. Yep. The difference was the coordinator, how well they did on 3rd down, and most notably how well they did in the red zone. And what is so maddening to me about how they started last night, that first possession in the red zone, you got it. I know every team in the league. What does every team in the league say? We're going to be physical. We're going to be big. We're going to be physical. We're going to be strong. But you're not. And so you cannot go jumbo 3 consecutive plays against the Eagles when you're the Falcons. That gives them a schematic edge. And you're going to say, okay, 1st down on our first drive in the red zone, run at Devontae Freeman, fine. 2nd down, run Devontae Freeman into a goal line front. 3rd down, we're going to be tricky. We're going to throw a pass to Devontae Freeman with Julio Jones not on the field. He wasn't on the field all 4 of those plays. 4th down, we're going to try to spread Devontae Freeman out and have him be, faster than the Eagles defense? Next drive in the red zone, at least they had Julio on the field, but they don't throw it to him one time. He's your best player. Yeah. He's one of the best players in the league. If you want to run from the goal line, go spread. Make the Eagles go spread. Don't go against their strength to try to prove a point that you can't prove. It almost felt like macho play calling. I'm going to show you we can do this, but you can't do it.
Well, he was trying to help his team prove something to themselves. You've been preaching it all off season. That's how your season ended, because you couldn't punch it in a goal-to-goal situation in the divisional round. So when you have that opportunity to present itself early in the game, it was an opportunity for Dan Quinn to reinforce the messaging that he had been giving to these guys the entire offseason. But the only problem with that, Nick and Bart, is that those guys aren't who they thought they were. Right. Those aren't those guys. Do you look at the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front? They bullied the Atlanta Falcons offensive line in that situation. And the 4th down call, Nick, when the jumbo package of Devontae Freeman to the corner, I don't mind challenging the support of the defense in a run game in the goal line, but you do that in early downs and distances. On a 4th down situation, why not try to spread them out, try to run some pick plays? You saw the Eagles running pick plays. Zach Ertz got a penalty last night trying to convert on a pick play.
He was picking Grady Jarrett.
Exactly, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. But listen, if you're trying to do that, I can understand that. That makes sense as opposed to what what you've been doing, what you did in the divisional round, and what you did all last night in the red zone.
You have to understand your personnel. When they have big physical guys, what you want to do is you want to wham, trap them, and use their strength against them. You know, you saw them get the touchdown. Who was that? Coleman up the middle for the only touchdown that they had. It was a trap play, and that's what you want to do. You want to cut them on the backside, get them to move in one direction. They're big guys who can't change direction, so you want to use their strengths against them. You have to understand your personnel. And they thought that they can be the big bad bullies, but that's not how you do it. It's more than one way to skin the cat. Spread them out. You still can run all the power runs that you have. You can get that schematically by getting different personnel, by spreading them out. Then they have to match, and depending on who they bring in, that determines the play call.
So is it all play calling or is it all execution?
I think it's a combination of both, but it starts with what Nick and Bart said. You can't fool yourself. Bill Parcells used to say it all the time. Worst thing you can do in the NFL is try to fool yourself. And I think Dan Quinn...
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think Dan Quinn got caught up in trying to get his guys to believe that they could be a team that could play that kind of football with the Philadelphia Eagles. But what have we been talking about the Eagles all preseason? How their big guys are better than everybody else's big guys.
And the
offensive and the defensive lines. They upgraded. You saw Haloti on that first goal line stand. He was a man in there. And that's exactly the type of football that the Eagles play, which is why they match up well against anyone.
And listen, some of this, a lot of this, the majority of this, I think, is Sark. But Matt Ryan, the $150 million man, he's got to take some ownership of it as well. Whether it was missing the slant that could have been for a touchdown, whether it is on what could have been the final play of the game, would have been if not for a very soft illegal contact penalty, not even giving you guys a chance. He sailed it out of the end zone like it was third down instead of fourth, or the actual last play of the game where you make it to where the only way Julio's getting a touchdown there is if it's Canadian football and the field's wider. Like, this is Matt Ryan in the red zone yesterday was 1 for 9 with a pick. Like, that's unacceptable.
They're like a miscommunication.
0 for 3 to Julio Jones.
Let's hold on. And the pictures, maybe miscommunication, but the 1 for 9. Since the start of last year, Matt Ryan has thrown the ball across the goal line in the end zone to Julio Jones 20 times. They're 1 of 20. 1 touchdown in 20 attempts, 1 catch in 20 attempts. For some context, it's not like Julio isn't getting the opportunities. He's got the second most in that time for any player in the league. The only guy with more is DeAndre Hopkins, who we were talking about earlier, who for a few of those games had Deshaun Watson throwing to him, but for the other games, bad quarterbacks. He's had 23 attempts. Balls he could catch in the end zone. He's got a dozen touchdowns. Julio is an amazing player, and some of this I'm sure is on Julio, but hey, you're going to be hard to convince me that Julio can be an A-plus player everywhere on the field, and then he forgets how to play football in the red zone. But this is, to me, I don't know if either one of you guys were ever on a team that had a bugaboo all year and ended up being the reason you lost in the playoffs. But if you did, that's what this was for Atlanta last year. To have the season start and them lose against the team that knocked them out for the exact same reasons, that's the worst type of loss. To me, this was a worse loss for Atlanta than 31-3. 31-3, listen, they had the emotion, we just weren't ready, we'll be better. But now if you're being honest with yourself, you're like, man, over a big sample size of games, we can't figure this out. That's concerning.
Meanwhile, Nick Foles is like tiptoeing out. He's like, I gotta win.
I
just
and I got
see you guys
$500,000 in my pocket.
Right?
$500,000 bonus.
Bart, stick around. Coming up is James Conner, the new Le'Veon Bell. That's next.
Oh, sure.
This is First Thing.